Hello and welcome to Democracycast. This is Dean Edwards, International Coordinating Editor for Democracy Watch News in Salem, Oregon. Today, another one of our seemingly continuous special events. We have two representatives active with the various movements for democracy in Sudan. Leading the discussion will be Numairy, a BBC journalist, as memory serves, with the Arabic service. And we have Dr. Mohammed Hassan, who is an intern, who is a resident in internal medicine. And he's also a translator and also is a media host himself. So, gentlemen, we're really happy to have you. We will also be following up with a technology report from our own John Harvey, and then a report on the Seattle elections from Mark Taylor Canfield. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all. This is Dean Edwards in Salem, Oregon. And there's one final note I might mention. Anybody out there who, like me, has spent decades not reading the Second Treatise on Civil Government by John Locke is strongly advised to do so. This is a mea culpa statement on my part. I should have read it. Having read it, I now realize that it provides answers for almost every major controversy we have today in civil governance. So with that, I will talk about it next week. Meanwhile, let's go to the Middle East, where we have Numairy in dialogue with Dr. Mohammed Hassan. Gentlemen, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dean, for the opportunity. Thank you guys for hosting this. To begin with, I would like to give a brief introduction about, let's say, the Sudanese revolution and how all of this started. Let's take ourselves back all the way to December of 2018, and all the way to the beginning of 2019. Let's say all the way until late August 2019. So, as we all know, or maybe we do not, Sudan was ruled by one of the most corrupted, parties, which is the National Congress Party. It was ruled for over 30 years by former President Mohammed Hassan El Mahdi, and the movement and how the revolution started was actually when the 30 years outcome started to affect the economy, which was so in a very dangerous, let's say, place. As we all know, Sudan has been out of any recognition. It has been a mess, a chaos, especially in the last 5 years. The country has been a mess. People couldn't even draw their money from bank. We faced bankruptcy. We had problems in, let's say, food, transportation. It was huge, and the effect was starting to hit deep. So people decided to do something about it. It wasn't the first time that the Sudanese people came in together for a revolution. Back in 2013, there was let's say, a revolution was started, but it was faced by all means of deadly weapons. There was a lot of blood. There were a lot of martyrs. And then the difference and what made the revolution succeed, the last one, which was in 2018, 2019, was that the people came together and they used a lot of, let's say, methods to fight this corrupted government. So it all started back in December 2018, let's say, with the peaceful protesters just protesting in many cities. Khartoum, Sudan, that's the capital. Atbara, that's where it all started. So people came together. At the beginning, it wasn't, let's say, well organized until the Sudanese professionals gathering showed up in cooperation with the Forces of Freedom of Change, actually. So the key, or let's say the key to this successful revolution, Sudanese revolution, was the fact that it was always peaceful. Although it was faced by a lot of, let's say, weapons that you don't normally use, or it shouldn't be used against peaceful protesters. Forces like the RSF, Rapid Support Forces, which are actually a militia, but then they were named as forces, which is something really that's a big question. But the Sudanese people has always preferred to call them what they really are, a militia. Those militias were found way back in the early 2000s by the person known as Mohammed Hamdan Doglo, better known as Hemeti. They're responsible actually for a lot of crimes in the western part of Sudan, a lot of massacres, let's say, killing innocent people and family. It's and the thing is, the way they were renamed as the Rapid Support Forces is something until today unacceptable, and the Sudanese people have never gave it the green light. They never let it pass. And so we faced them alongside the National Intelligence and Security Agency, having a lot of forces in the streets. We had to face, tear gases, open fire. It was more of a, at a point, the Sudanese people, but it thought that this is not, it's not a balance. Like it's peaceful protesters against all sources, or all like means of unhumane, let's say, ways to treat peaceful protesters. But then again, we believed we had all those, let's say, we at one point we also used the civil disobedience to help affect the country, to help affect the National Congress Party, which was ruling the country. And then we went back to the streets, all the way until we, at the 6th of April of 2019, in cooperation with the Sudanese Professional Gathering and the Forces of Freedom and Change, Sudanese people decided to have a sit-in at the military headquarters. Now that's where it all started, actually. That's where the revolution went to a next level, you can say. We had the sit-in at the military headquarters. We headed to the army forces, asking them or seeking for help. And then it lasted for a very long while. At the beginning, couple of days, I was actually there at Sudan. I was at the military headquarters. We had to witness clashes between the National Intelligence and Security Agency and the army forces. It wasn't a safe place at the beginning, but then all the way until the 11th of April, that's when Mohammed Hassan El Bashir, former president, was finally removed following his, let's say, vice president, Awad ibn Auf, in only 24 hours. And then that was the huge point. That was where the revolution moved to a next level, you can say. So negotiations started between the Sudanese Professional Gathering, the Forces of Freedom and Change, and then the Sudan, in cooperation with the Sudanese Professional Gathering and the Military Council. But then at one point, which is the 3rd of June of 2019, let's say one of the biggest crimes in the history of Sudan was committed by the Military Council. The peaceful sit-in was, let's say, deadly whipped, ended in a very bloody way. A lot of martyrs by the RSF, Rapid Support Forces, which I prefer to call them militias of Mohammed Hamdan Doglo Hemeti. A lot of let's say protesters were killed. A lot of martyrs. Some are still missed. We still don't have the correct number of people missing and the martyrs. This crime was committed not only by the RSF, but by who is now the chairman of was the chairman of the Sovereignty Council, which is Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. They denied it. It's still denied until today. And after the deadly, this deadly incidents, what happened is the country had to undergo an internet blackout for a very long time. The country wasn't safe. The RSF spread in the country. People weren't safe. A lot of shooting, a lot of live bullets. People couldn't. People had actually to undergo civil disobedience. It was a very chaotic, let's say, environment, and people were so unsafe. And then people had to go out marching in a very, let's say, in a protest that was one of the, let's say, the biggest protests at the 30th of June. And then after that, I can give the chance to Adil and Dr. Mohammed Hassan to continue from this point. If you'd like, Dr. Mohammed.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Well, I'll carry on now from the era or the time where the power sharing agreement was signed between Forces of Freedom and Change. We call them FFC, which is a coalition of civilian political parties and rebel groups in Sudan. They signed the power sharing agreement with the military in 2019, and since then, they've been carrying the their governmental duties in administrating all aspects of political work in Sudan, basically. But there have been so many clashes and between these parties themselves within the FFC, and there has been some back and forth, what we call, let's say, talks with disagreements between them. Eventually, this culminated more and more, and it became more exposed on the surface and on the media and news. And part of the grievance that allowed the coup to succeed was the inability of the FFC to extend a reasonable and workable formula for governance. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan is the lead operator of the coup and the commander and chief of the army. And the second man who continues to be in the shadows at the moment is the leader of the RSF, Rapid Support Forces, General Hemeti. The point to be noted here is that this is a full-fact coup that took place, and I find it misleading for some other commentators to continue talking about it as a coup attempt. Now, after that, things took a dramatic change. People went into the streets rejecting the military coup and decrying and denouncing it, and demanding for a pro-democracy governance. And they made it very clear in their arranged and scheduled million-man demonstrations nationwide. Governmental and private employees are staging organized nationwide strikes, utilizing the power of civil disobedience as effective as possible. They are abiding by peaceful tools in the face of the military. People were singing songs with slogans, civil rule or eternal revolution, raising banners, decrying and denouncing the coup. And this is all in the midst of internet blackout, complete internet blackout. And up to today, it has completed today's the 11th day under imposed internet blackout, as the military continues to choke the people and isolate them from the world. The resistance activities continue as per schedules outlined by the resistance committees, which are the backbone of all the community movement. But we got a glimpse of hope now. Our hopes are raised as we have seen the worldwide interaction with all this movement. Sudanese diaspora are all out in the streets also in large demonstrations, similar to those within the country, denouncing the coup and demanding a pro-democracy, civil-led governance. We've seen demonstrations from the far west in California by the Sudanese Association in the northern California state, and as well as Washington, DC, Berlin, Vienna, so many cities who shared their sounds. Now, the struggle continues as people are now, especially the resistance committees, are trying to conglomerate together and form a unified way and formation of going through all of this. And they are supported by the Sudanese Professional Association, and they have raised their demands clearly that they will not compromise. They will not be outcast amidst all the events going on. The final word is the people's word, either to respect the Sudanese existence or expect Sudanese resistance. I guess I can pass the mic to you, Mr. Dean.
If I may jump in on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Adil.
Is that okay, everyone? I want to respect.
Yes, obviously, for everybody wondering, we are going over today. This is a compelling report. We'd hope to get a longer report later. We ended up running with that first. So thank you, gentlemen. Do you have anything else? Numairy, do you have anything you want to ask Dr. Mohammed about, or
yeah,
anything else you want to add at this point?
Yeah, I would like to add something. The protests and the protests and the civil disobedience and all the events happening, which started at the 25th, the recent, let's say, events happening, which started the 25th of October 2021, as a result to to the protests, we have more than 170 injured protesters, in addition to 12 martyrs killed by those forces. And we fear that this number might grow as the military council refuses to listen to the Sudanese people. So this is one thing we have to add. In addition to more than 200 who were killed, and we don't have the right number for the people missing back in 2019, 2018. So that's something to add. That's something that we point out to every time, and every time we come again, the revolution comes back to life. We lose more people injured. This is a dangerous situation that Sudan is in right now, and we hope that we can hear good news soon, as the Sudanese people all have one, let's say, all under one, or under unity, let's say, and they all want one thing, and it is, I guess, obvious to the military council, but for many reasons they know, and we expect explanations from them. They refuse to listen to the Sudanese people. It's let's say a case of unity. All the Sudanese people have, all the Sudanese people want the same thing, but it's just let's say the military council refuses to listen, and in the process we have martyrs, we have injured protesters. This is a dangerous situation, we can say, and that's all I have to say or add, actually.
And we can stand by. I advise people to go to Twitter for updates about the recent attempts to reach some kind of agreement. That's enough time for an introduction to this. I encourage people to check in a critical way with different news reports. Go to more than one, and definitely check out the BBC to see how they're reporting it, also with a critical eye. And we're grateful for Numairy's participation today. And